because, yeah, I'm going to turn my fat hat off so you're able to see my screen better. Oh my God, the neighbor stopped drilling. It's my lucky day.
Yay.
What? The window I selected is invalid. What the heck's wrong with you? Yeah, Zoom is acting up for me as well. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, for some reason, PowerPoint opened two PowerPoint windows. Uh, Let me try again. Now it should work. I keep discovering new downsides to this app called Zoom. With all due respect, I have PTSD for Skype. I remember using Skype and it worked wonderfully. At the beginning of COVID, people were like, "We're going to have a 2 week lockdown." I said, "Perfect. I will hold my classes in their proper time slot on Skype, record them, and send them to the kids." And everyone was like, "Is that even legal and whatnot?" Then they started introducing Zoom in 2 weeks. And they told us to recover those classes. I told them, "Here's the recording. We are done." I mean, obviously, if you're a reactive person and you know what to do, it's going to turn out lovely. Now, what is the molecular logic of biomolecules? You're going to have biochemistry in the first year as well. Will it be difficult? A lot of people hate biochemistry. Why? They don't really understand the concepts. They don't really understand how to draw conclusions from structure to function to biological activity. Now, in these PowerPoints, my goal was to teach you that concept, and after a while, you'll also get a question bank. This has been the way to operate thus far. Now, obviously, financially, there's going to be a few changes in how the university is going to be run, but I hope to God that will not affect how students study, because that would be insane. Our previous financial source had quite high expectations, and oftentimes they were rather strange. I could meet them easily. Why? Because I usually try to help my students. I mean, they actually ordered people to have a failure rate of 30% or less. They couldn't order me that because I never had that high of a failure rate, not because I'm so good, because I get the best students for some reason, and usually they're highly motivated and they study hard. My failure rate was usually less than 15%, including those people who had to end their university careers due to financial reasons. Unfortunately, in the case of Hungarian students, is quite common. So yeah, don't believe any gossip. That's the bottom line. And don't believe anything anyone says. Um, Try things and have your own view and your own experience. And to be honest, what I say, I don't think is that valid in many cases because I'm a teacher. I am not a student. Yeah. In the case of glucopyranones, now obviously the position of the OH can be up or down, alpha or beta. Will they be two OH groups? No, it's either going to be an H or the other one's going to be an OH. And this oftentimes confuses kids. Yeah? What I've noticed is that a lot of my kids are confused by the pyranose ring. Now, either this one's going to be an H. Oh, let me switch to a pen. So either this one's going to be an H. Yeah. And
Mhm.
if it's below the belt, it's a beta, or if it's above the belt of the wing, it's going to be an alpha. And the
Mhm.
telltale sign, if it's a glucose, well, in its linear form, it's going to go like that. The carbohydrates are your easiest source of calories, your easiest source of energy. Do you run sometimes?
Yeah, pretty often actually.
That's so amazing. that keeps your body fat low and it produces hormones that make you want to live. It helps coping with stress much better stress coping. Why? Because your muscles, as they move, they produce these special hormones. I don't even know the cocktail of it that help you with mental health. And yeah, that is an excellent idea.
I mean, I
Uh,
actually feel the difference because usually when I like have a lot of school, like during the year, I go running and it always like really helps me calm down. So I was wondering, what's the basically medicine behind it?
yeah, well, that's the medicine behind it. Physical movement, physical exercise always helps you cope better. Now, if someone is my build, it's going to be weightlifting first, and as I go below 100 kilos, then I'm allowed to run. Why? Because the likelihood of, of having an accident and disabling myself is very high due to the high body mass. So yeah. It is recommended to do any form of physical exercise, even stretching works. Yeah, elderly Chinese people they go with stretching. Now, what does that do? Carbohydrates are inside your muscles in the form of
Mm,
glycogen,
goodness.
also in your liver. When that glycogen gets used up, you start beta oxidation. That's what I'm aiming for. Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
if I want to lose body fat, that's how I'm gonna lose that body fat. I'm gonna burn it.
Mm-hmm.
They are all important compounds in energy reserves because glucose forms special polymers in both human, animal, and also uh, plant organisms. And in plants, it's going to be called starch and it's going to be a different kind. But again, lots of age groups, easily mobilized. And obviously, we classify them in various ways. Um, they have various optical isomerism as well. They may have a handedness in these centers of asymmetry, which is really important, and that is what defines them. Can be mirror images of one another, like D and L glucose. Now, nature, for some reason, prefers D glucose more, and in the case of amino acid, it's going to be the L conformation that nature prefers. Why? Because of energetic reasons. Yes, it's more comfortable if I would have to really boil it down to its essence. Epimers, on the other hand, we're going to talk about this in greater detail in in biochemistry, and we're going to do far more drawing. Epimers uh, may differ at one, but not all chiral centers. And epimerization is oftentimes a thing that may occur during the production of various pharmaceuticals, and it's something you would want to
Epimeration, you said?
epimerization. I don't know if it's a word, it's a verb. We use it as laboratory slang, so I'm quite careful about it.
Okay.
Basically, it means that during a chemical reaction, two epimers may form. And
Mhm.
when I was doing my postdoc research a decade ago, I came up with a method to circumvent that by using an amino acid in a form of a copper complex. Basically, what it does, it bends the hand of the molecule into a single direction. And that's good because one optical isomer may be highly active, the other one may be highly toxic. And we want to use lower amounts of medication in order to not poison the body in excess. You may have heard of antibiotic resistance and multi-drug resistance
Yeah.
likewise. Well, there are quite a few bad things occurring in the world. One of these epicenters is Michigan in the United States for gonorrhea. Yeah, I'll send you a video about that. There is a young man I follow on YouTube, and he has quite a few videos on diseases and various pathophysiological cases. It's not particularly disgusting, but it's quite informative about current things and interesting things occurring to people, and how difficult it may be when someone does something silly to themselves, and how difficult it is to find out what they did and actually treat them in order for them to make a full recovery. I mean, making a recovery and making a full recovery, what do you think the difference is?
Recovery is like, well, somehow getting rid of the problem partially, like it doesn't affect you anymore as
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
full recovery is getting rid of the problem completely.
exactly. Basically, having the previous set point in every parameter, making a full recovery, making a recovery. I mean, I can recover from an amputation. Yeah, but it's not going to be a full recovery because my limb is not going to grow back. We don't know how to grow them back yet. But let's wait for it. But the thing is, yes, yes, spot on, perfect. Well, oftentimes these sort of questions may also occur in entrance exams. And of course, a hemiacetal intermediate is going to form when glucose forms as cyclic forms. And as you can see, alpha and beta glucoses are two anomers of the same thing. They are present in various amounts at various temperatures. And it's really difficult. It's really difficult to do something to these because they'll be present in all three forms. Now, the formyl group is
Mhm.
going to be the most minor compound, and that's how you'll be able to recognize basically and identify a sugar. Even from urine, if someone has glucosuria, what do they have? They probably have some form of.
One more, what was the question? One more time.
If someone has glucosuria, they have glucose in their urine.
Hmm.
What could their base disease be?
I don't know.
It's usually diabetes. Diabetes is called sweet urine disease in Mandarin Chinese because just having high blood sugar alone is not just a single symptom of the disease. It's insulin resistance, it's various ailments at the same time. So having one condition can lead to several other ailments. And because of having glucose in urine, well, glucose is one of the most nourishing sources of energy in existence, right? Many living beings can use it easily without a problem. So, if that occurs, let's say in someone's bladder, in someone's urinary tract, in someone's kidneys, what will this lead to?
Mm, I'm not quite sure.
Has it ever happened to you that you left out a drink, a sweet drink, a soda, some kind of syrup, or you just corked up a Powerade and just left it in the room? What
Mm,
happens to it over time?
I mean, probably something had to have to do with the densities of different materials in it. No? Like it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Something's going to happen to it because of glucose content. Things are going to start growing in it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and easily, and easily. Fungi, bacteria, if it's just, let's say, 2 days, after 2 days, you open the Powerade, you drank from it, you forgot it in this goddamn heat, it's going to start fermenting and it may produce small amounts of alcohol. Now,
Okay. Uh-huh.
in the
Mm-hmm.
urinary tract, you may have pathogens growing just like that. It can be fungi, it can be bacteria, it can be anything. So
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes this may be an issue for diabetics likewise. Now, glycosidic linkages form between the two, and alpha-1,4 glycosidic linkages are quite digestible to humans. With beta-1,4 linkages, it's not digestible because we are lacking the enzymes that would be able to break them up. Certain bacteria is capable of doing that, but because of that, dietary fiber affects us differently. Yes. Um, Cows and other animals are able to digest cellulose because they have a culture of these cellulose breaking bacteria in their stomachs, and usually they have a longer gastrointestinal tract because of that. We are able to usually digest starch and derivatives, right? When we were children, our biology teacher, he told us to bring in stale bread or dry bread, even better, and he would make us take a bite, and he would tell us to chew it for as long as possible and
Hmm.
then report our findings. We were like in the fifth grade or in the sixth grade, we were small children. And it was indeed miraculous that the bread, which is oftentimes not a preferred thing, I mean, context. Back in the day, people wouldn't throw out bread; it would never become moldy or stale. Usually, they would use wood-fire ovens in a kitchen to cook and oftentimes to stay warm, because this was the 90s. After communism, it was back to the Stone Age for most of the region. It depended on where you lived, and this was a smaller towns. And smaller towns, it was semi-village conditions. And most households they had dried bread because they would feed it to their livestock, usually to pigs. It was something that would supplement their diet,
Hmm.
and they would raise pigs. So that's the context. And
Hmm.
it wasn't a preferred thing. Afterwards, in the early 2000s, you could buy dried bread cut into rolls, salted and seasoned, and it was called bake rolls, and they would charge you money for it. So it was kind of funny, but yeah, if you kept chewing, basically enzymes from your saliva would break it down. These are called amylase enzymes.
Hmm.
And they just do it just like that. And oftentimes this is why a lot of processed foods may be that bit dangerous because of the high amounts of easily digestible sugars in them and also fructose. High levels of fructose is going to cause the buildup of fat also around the internal organs. So one should probably manage their diets as well as possible. And it's really interesting when a fat guy like me is telling this to a fit person such as you. But as a medical doctor, you will have to tell this to people, and obviously you will be more original and believable than myself. Now, amylose in linear regions of glycogen and aminopectin, it is able, is a kind of polymer, and amylase is the enzyme that breaks it down. Yeah. Alpha 1 6 linkages are in glycogen and aminopectin. Again, this is for rapid mobilization of glucose in muscles. And in cellulose, it's structural support, so it's more difficult for for most living organisms to break it down. And as you can see, the primary building blocks are the same, but the enzymes that are able to do things to them differ. And there's a reason for that. Some of these polymers are used for structural reasons, and also they may contribute to dietary fiber. I mean, dietary fiber is necessary for human consumption. Why? Because we need to be able to pass things and we need to have a healthy gut microbiome.
Hmm.
Healthy gut oftentimes influences your psyche as well, how you feel about things. For example, I have had colleagues who had diarrhea and vomiting before taking an oral exam, and it was because they were in such a psychological state that their mind and their body basically reacted to the psychological pressure. If you have a bad gut feeling. Yet some people have such a healthy gut microbiome that pathogens don't affect them the same way. The good bacteria and the diversity of the good bacteria in their gut doesn't allow pathogens to grow or doesn't allow pathogens to affect them as much as let's say anyone else. And it's really difficult to get such a good gut microbiome. However, if one manages it, and obviously one is fit and one is properly healthy, well, they can earn a living by selling their byproducts,
Hmm.
which may be used as medicine. they're going to dry it and put it into pills and basically restart someone else's gut microbiome with a healthy gut microbiome. And apparently, autism and Alzheimer's also have a specific microbiome linked to these diseases. So they can be prevented apparently by some way. There's also a hypothesis as such, and there is evidence, but not strong enough evidence to suggest that this may be a valid approach to both diseases.
Mhm.
When you have mystery diseases, or not always diseases, just quacks, well, oftentimes you're going to be like, let's try a holistic approach. Let's try and approach this from all directions because otherwise, yeah, we won't get a better view. That same monomer is going to change how the polymer works depending on how it's linked together. Ketene can also be a tad bit of an allergen to a lot of people, and also arthropod protein. A lot of people are not okay with arthropod protein. They're unable to digest it, or they may have an allergic reaction to it, and this has to be used with proper care. Our good friends, the Poles, well, they came up with an amazing new polymer that helps regrow skin, and it uses chitin and other copolymers in it. It works with a lot of people, but people who have this condition of an extreme uh, uh, inflammation towards chitin, then use is going to be limited. I thought that this was the reason you couldn't really import this into Romania. It turns out during the COVID period, um, it was just a question of supply. It wasn't the case, but still, it needs to be dermatologically tested per patient, and after the proper immunological assays were done, then it can be remarkably well used for skin regeneration. So all of these polymers, they have special applications, not just their primary biological use. It's astounding what modern research is able to achieve. Polymer architecture emerges from linkage chemistry, and architecture may determine biological or biomedical role. And of course, well, you eat some kind of starch. When I say starch, yeah, it depends on the culture the person is from, what's going to be their primary thing. Yeah, Asian people are more drawn towards rice. European people are going to be drawn more towards bread or potatoes. I mean, the Irish they go mad over potatoes. I mean, for them, it was a primary source of energy in the 19th century until potato blight came around, and it contributed to the Great Famine. It's history. Have you learned about this in IB or in genetics?
No.
Oh, we're going to learn about it. Then I'm going to tell you all about it. But the main thing is starch is broken down, yeah, into monomers that is being absorbed in the intestine, obviously through the appropriate receptors
Mhm.
into the bloodstream, and they get into to their area of use. Oftentimes, muscle uses a lot of glucose. Your brain uses insane amounts of glucose and energy sources. Now, your body is able to run on ketone bodies as well. Why? If
Mhm.
we go hungry, we can burn into that body fat we've got. However, primarily it likes glucose better. Yeah? And basically Solomon chapter 3 that goes into this mainly. I would go with that first and foremost. If you have the time, go into Campbell because it's in greater detail, and Lettish Molecular Cell Biology is also quite a reference book. The two chapters go into it. Now these chapters are full of images, so basically if we would just look at information content, they're basically summaries, and I don't think you should be you should be afraid of, oh, that book has this many pages. We do not measure information in centimeters. That is what one of my language teachers said. And I couldn't agree more. I would have never thought I would agree with her, but I agreed with her on the spot because it has to do with information content. How much information does it contain? And that has to be translated otherwise. Yes. Now, obviously, in diabetes, we already talked about diabetes. Oftentimes, in diabetes mellitus, you may have insulin action or secretion. Hyperglycemia may become a thing, which has its own ramifications. It's not like, oh, you have high levels of blood sugar, let's lower that and you're going to be fine. I wish it were that easy. Unfortunately, it is not. It's far more complicated than that because having high blood glucose levels adds other ramifications as well to one's health. And I also previously quoted basically a greater ease of contracting urinary infections. And that's just one of them. That's just one of them. If high blood sugar goes untreated for longer periods of time, it can you can end up in a sugar coma. You may experience liver disease. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is far more common than alcoholic fatty liver disease. But fatty liver disease is always associated with what? With alcoholism. No. Oftentimes, if there's a high intake of starch and a high intake of just starches, and oftentimes the person might even be fat, yet visceral fat may accumulate around the liver. So it's really, really, really difficult to maintain proper health in this stressful world because stress can also obviously contribute greatly. But oftentimes, what I've noticed, if someone is unable to diagnose what's wrong with you, they're going to say it's stress because it's been rather fashionable. I mean, the guy who came up with stress started supporting the smoking. It's not the cigarette, it's stress. Yeah, it is the cigarette. It is. Now, hypoglycemia means low glucose concentration in blood. Emia is always in blood.
Yes.
It can be life-threatening. Um, Usually Americans, they go with milligrams per 100 milliliters. Oddly enough, in the Romanian healthcare system, this has been common as well. We've talked about conversions from one unit to the other already. But if someone is highly hypoglycemic, let's say it's around 3 millimoles per liter or 38 milligrams per 100 milliliters, it's life-threatening. Usually they receive glucose intravenously, and then and only then will they try to find out the cause because they can easily die without a proper energy source for longer periods of time. Homeless people who have went hungry for weeks oftentimes. I mean, they don't eat, oftentimes they just drink. What do they drink? Not water, not water, I assure you. And if they get, let's say, 2 boxes of donuts, because someone is trying to be nice to the person. Yeah, I mean, these things happen. These things happen. Someone in a bakery feels sorry for the poor human being, a carcass of a man, sees how malnourished they are. Well, what can they do? They're going to give them 2 boxes of donuts. That's 24 donuts. What's the issue with that?
It- Not good for nutrition.
Not good for nutrition, yes, yes, but what do donuts have? High amounts of
Sugar.
sugar, extreme amounts of sugar. They will get a glucose shock. They can that they're going to eat a lot of it,
Hmm.
and they may collapse and go into a glucose coma
Hmm.
because their bodies are not adapted to having decent amounts of insulin to combat the shock of glucose that has occurred on the body.
Hmm.
And it will have an ill effect on cellular function, homeostasis, and everything. It's really difficult to treat these people. I mean, usually when people see homeless people, they assume it's a lack of funds and a lack of shelter. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. Maybe in the 90s it may have been like that in the region, but nowadays it's usually a lack of mental health and
Hmm.
addiction and powerful addictions towards drugs, towards alcohol. And many people have a genetic predisposition towards addictions, so their best option is not even go close to what tempts them. Some people are like, I'm not going to drink a drop. It's not because they're afraid of alcohol. It's not because they feel like they shouldn't, because they know how they are, and they know if they start drinking, it feels really good, and they
Hmm.
might not know when to stop.
Yeah.
I understand this, of course, and it's oftentimes not a lack of morals or not a lack of will, but genetics. Yeah, people usually who have lighter eyes, they have this ability of drinking a sip of alcohol, feeling incredibly well. They're not going to get drunker. However, they'll be able to drink copious amounts of alcohol and get really easily hooked on it. Um, the Irish, they're able to cope with large amounts of alcohol. I'm not saying that they're alcoholics because your generation is doing well, smoking less, drinking less, far more health conscious. And this actually influences the industry. People have started eating less sweet during the holidays. So people are far more health conscious these days. Yeah. There's a chocolate factory that is going to reduce its capacities in Hungary because of that. There are alcohol producers going out of business because they can't sell as much as they did before.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know if it's good or bad, but it seems progress because people are far more health conscious and self-aware. And that leads into a better direction because they will produce better people. And
Hmm.
we need better people. We don't need an X in the right circle or in the right um, square. We just need better people because better people are going to make better leaders and it's going to make a better world. We might not have as many people, but better people.
Hmm.
Yes. What happens to glucose? It's going to get burned, yeah. It's going to get made into ATP in the mitochondrion.
Hmm.
It may be stored in the liver and in the muscle. Let's say you had a long run,
Yeah.
you're going to feel exhausted.
Mm.
What helps?
Resting.
Resting, yes. Usually you have a packet of magnesium nearby, that little satchel of magnesium. You can just put it on your tongue, drink it with water so you don't have cramps.
Hmm.
That's a great thing against cramps. I also have those, not because I'm a runner, it's because sometimes I'm overly caffeinated and it helps with the twitching.
Hmm.
It's not great, but yeah, it does help with people with a heart condition. Usually, I have sodium and potassium tablets on me as well because some people may have arrhythmia, especially older people. It's called Panangin. It's from Richter. I always have it at hand. It
Hmm.
has 158 milligrams of magnesium and 140 milligrams of potassium. One or two will probably help grandma feel better. With a bit of vitamin D and vitamin and B vitamins, she might not even forget to take her meds. Yeah, usually these memory boosters only have these. They just supplement people properly. Now, the liver has around 100 grams of glycogen, and most of it is stored in muscle. But again, it depends on the person, depends on how muscular you are. And your muscles are going to need glucose in order to replenish the lost glycogen.
Hmm.
If you do a proper, let's say, half an hour workout, it will at around 20 minutes, your glycogen reserves are going to get depleted. If it's high intensity training with heavy enough weights, it's just going to take care of your glycogen reserves, and then afterwards you're going to start burning fat. Now, that's just one thing, but if someone is trying to achieve body recomposition, they don't just want to lose. body weight. It's the least of their worries. They want to lose body fat and gain muscle because higher muscle content is going to burn through more energy and it will increase the metabolic rate of the person. And have you noticed these guys who work out regularly, they're real muscle men. If they study and if they put their mind to study, they're going to study better and they're also going to feel better because of regular workouts and they are able to do more because of the regular workout.
Hmm.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. These are the kind of candidates universities oftentimes looking for because if someone's doing a regular sport and they're achieving good grades in the meantime, that means they're able to cope with life quite effectively. And you may have seen a lot of medical professionals who run, who work out, who have a hobby that involves physical movement or concentration, like music, because it does help cope with stress quite well, and it puts your body to a different set point. Now, blood glucose is going to be maintained from those glycogen reserves in milligrams over deciliters, from 70 to 110 milligrams over deciliter should be all right, as is 3.9 to 6.1 millimoles over liters. Again, it depends when do we measure this and who is the person we're talking about. Because obviously, if someone had, let's say, two scones for breakfast with a cup of tea, their blood sugar levels are going to rise quite a bit. If it's someone who went hungry for a while, well, yeah, it's going to be far less. And glucagon raises blood glucose to gluconeogenesis, and insulin from beta cells is going to lower it. Now, both insulin and human growth hormone, they have muscle growing effects because if there's a high susceptibility to insulin, you're able to burn through those glycogen reserves, then you're going to start burning fat, and then micro tears are going to occur in your muscles. Growth hormone helps you repair that with an appropriate protein profile from your food, and yeah, you're going to see results. Now, as a young lady, should you be worried if you work out with heavy weights that you're going to look like a guy?
No.
No, definitely not. Why? You don't produce male sex hormone in such amounts. You don't produce androgens in such amounts. However, you're going to be stronger and you're going to feel better because of it. There are some insane films nowadays that show quite a fragile woman beating up a guy 3 times her size. It's not going to happen. What you can do is injure the guy and run away. Uh, I'm saying this from experience, and usually big
Saying
guys,
it from
proper big
experience,
guys.
like you beat someone up and ran away.
I didn't beat someone up. I just kicked them in places and then took off. Yeah. Well, I wasn't as heavy as I am today. Now that I'm heavier, I'm also stronger. Unfortunately, I'm quite heavy, but I'm able to lift more. And when you hit from an impulse with your entire body, that's going to have a bigger damage. So the best way you can win a fight is not be there. Yeah. Uh, Even though many people teach self-defense and claim this and that, take off.
Mhm.
You don't want to be there. You don't want to win a fight. You don't want to be in a fight.
Yeah.
That's how you win. You're not in it. And yeah, many people who grow up on the street and in gang culture, they're gonna say, "But they dishonored you." Who dishonored me? A toothless son of a bitch who makes a living out of threatening others and begging for money to get drugs. I mean, what do I care? And yeah, many people have this stupid mentality. In Budapest, people bugger off. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't get involved because the laws are like they kind people. Many people feel like they support criminals. I don't know. I never had too many issues like this, but yeah, ah, it is what it is. Oh my wife is working with pig eyes, and she prays to God she doesn't vomit. Yes. Well, if we're well fed, obviously insulin and glucose uptake is going to be bigger. If we eat too much, that will be deposited in places, if not necessarily under the skin or in various regions uh, around the internal organs. It may be deposited, and that contributes to visceral fat, and it's the most difficult fat to get rid of. Is it possible? Yes. Proper diet, proper exercise, absolutely. I did it once, I'll do it again. Now, fatty acids and triacylglycerols, they have copious amounts of energy inside of them, extreme energy yields. I mean, oils were used in lamps back in the day, and yeah, in many countries they burn oils in order to get soot, in order to make ink. It is just amazing. It's
Hmm.
an anhydrous storage. Obviously, if you're an animal living in the Arctic, you might go hungry for longer periods of time. You may need insulation. So, yes, it is necessary. And we're being told that trans fat is bad. And yes, it can be. Too much saturated fat can be. However, there are essential fatty acids. Let's face it, there are essential fatty acids. Nowadays, obesity has become a problem, metabolic disease has become a problem. There's excess caloric intake, increased adiposity, but it's not just that, a lack of physical movement. In
Hmm.
big cities, you can just go for a walk. Well, if they're safe enough, because I know for a fact that many bigger European cities are not that safe because certain young men are not being kept in order by their fathers and their families. And that's a failure of their families and their communities. Let's face it. You don't know how lucky we are because we have proper dads. You have a proper dad, that means you'll be kept out of prison, you'll be kept off drugs, you'll be kept off a lot of things just because you have a proper dad. And many people are like, oh, that's this and that, and the single parent, the single mother is able to do her best. Yes, she will, but the best thing to have is both parents, and that's how you're going to develop healthy people. And of course, it will teach you discipline oftentimes. Many people work too much and don't take care of themselves. And if this is the behavior you learn, well, over time, you're going to fall back on that. But if you see both your parents taking care of themselves, being healthy, having an orderly lifestyle, that is what you grow up in. And that's going to be your set point. That is going to be your normal. For children, what they see from their parents, that is their normal. Not what they say, what they do. And yeah, when you're a parent, that's what you have to do. Show good examples to your children. And as a teacher, same thing. You can say whatever you want. I can tell my kids, don't smoke because it's bad for you. Then I leave the school and I start chain smoking, and then I smell like a landfill. What is the image I'm giving off? I'm a hypocrite. But if I say, you know what, guys, this is my last cigarette, I'm throwing it away, it's bad for me, and then I
Hmm.
stop. Totally different example, totally different behavior. Yeah. Now, with unsaturated trans fats, the issue is the increased inflammation. A lot of us fry things in oil. There's nothing wrong with that if it's in moderation. However, oftentimes we're being told that poorer people they're going to consume more fried foods and whatnot. It's not poverty, it's comfort. Let's face it. And there are quite a few fatty acids that are essential. A lot of their derivatives make up the lipid bilayer. Cholesterol plays an important role. Cholesterol can be produced endogenically by the liver. I have a colleague, she reduced her cholesterol by dieting alone. She reduced it to half the normal value, now to the quarter of the normal value, but now her liver is working overtime. So, yeah, she has to do something about that, but it's incredible how she was able to manage uh, through diet and through strong will alone to avoid taking medications. Because let's face it, taking any medication um, is a shock to your body. It's something that shouldn't be there, but has to be there in order for you to function. Now, lipids also play a very important role in recognition and adhesion, and for cardiac, they can form a micelle and these phospholipids, and you can put medication in these. Yeah, or oftentimes when you want to remove face makeup, you have micellar water, and it's better than soap because it doesn't dry your skin, and smaller amounts are gonna wash off the makeup much easier.
Mhm.
Um, I also use makeup sometimes, but not ladylike makeup. I like heavy metal music, and do you know the rock band Kiss?
No, I don't think so.
No, it's an old people band. I mean, I don't think your dad is that familiar with it either. I shouldn't know it either. But they had this shocking makeup, black and white, and yeah, I kind of like the guitarist Gene Simmons. Yeah, they were quite a big deal in the 80s in shock rock and whatnot. And to be honest, I think they have a good message. But yeah, when there was a Kiss concert, we a couple of mates and me we did it. Yeah. Now disaccharides they also occur in various foods: lactose, sucrose, maltose, malt sugar. Uh, Maltose may occur in starch and glycogen digestion. It is an energy source. Lactose mainly in milk. Um, Human and cow milk are not that different. You have to dilute cow's milk a little bit, and it's perfectly okay for human consumption, providing it's pure enough. It used to be the only supplement for longer periods of time. There was no baby formula or anything back in the day. But nowadays, baby formulas are quite nourishing, and yes, it does take into account what's what and who's whom. Now, obviously, this shows a reducing disaccharide. What does it mean? A 4 mil group can be opened up, and
Mhm.
that 4 mil group that comes from the glycosidic linkage. Basically, the OH is being kept in a fuzz to represent both the alpha and beta anomers. And basically, if it's able to show its CHO, then it's going to be reducing sugar. Sucrose is our own common enemy, as it's fructose nowadays, because yeah, in America it's different. They put it in every food. Here in Europe, we have sourdough bread that has basically flour, salt, and water in it, nothing else. Okay, maybe a couple of seeds. In the US, it's going to be a long list of ingredients, unfortunately. Yeah. And this has caused health issues and the whole deal with ultra processed food. Not the processing, it's what is being added and how those ingredients interact. Yes. And it's not like it's unhealthy. They're all healthy. It's the amount. It's the amount that matters. We can digest starch, but not cellulose due to chemical structure. Yeah? And only certain types of bacteria can deal with cellulose. Glycoconjugates and the glycocalyx basically helps in cellular recognition. So yeah, that's another thing. Uh, And of course, with lipids, you can have fatty acid, triacylglycerols, the good stuff that make you rounder, and phospholipids inside your cellular membranes, steroids and sterols, they're very important as well as other types of signal molecules. Uh, I also talked about how these plasma membranes self-organize and how you can put things into the micelle. There's fluidity that is influenced by fatty acids, cholesterol, cis trans, and also fatty acid length. Selective permeability occurs because of it, obviously.
Mhm.
Cholesterol is essential, it's very important, and it's important as a source of steroid. Vitamin D is an excellent source of steroids. I supplement myself with vitamin D throughout the year uh, nowadays. But yeah, uh, should you supplement with vitamin D? Yes. Can you consume excessive amount? Yes, but that would be an insane amount. If it's more than 100,000 international units per week, then and only then can it have some form of toxicity, but still it's not that explored. If you take the normal amounts per day, it shouldn't do you. And if you, usually it is recommended to take around 4,000 international units per day. And
$4,000 international units?
Yes, it's international units, EIU or NE in Hungarian.
Mhm.
I don't know what it refers to. I think it's micrograms per, but it's easier than to it's easier to uh, just use international units. They use this for a lot of lipid-soluble vitamins. For example, with vitamin A, you have to mind the consumption because certain livers can have so much vitamin A inside of them that they may cause someone's skin to shed.
Mhm.
Vitamin A can have toxic effects. Here's a tad bit of a summary. I love these summaries. There are quite a few misconceptions, of course. Where do we go wrong? Um, Glycoproteins are synthesized and modified and secreted and put into their place. We've talked about this in greater detail. Oftentimes, congenital disorders, we'll talk about those in genetics, may cause issues in lipid metabolism. For example, there are certain syndromes that if they're non-homozygous, then they do not manifest and they help the general population be more resistant to tuberculosis. I think Tay-Sachs is one of those diseases that if it's not homozygous, then of course it's not an issue. But if it is, then the child is sick. However, if you have it as a recessive trait, you're far more resistant to tuberculosis, you don't get sick and you don't die. Now, obviously, rich people die of tuberculosis. It's been constant, right? Obviously, I mean that ironically. In Russia nowadays, multi-drug resistant tuberculosis kills 3 million people a year. 3 million people a year. Yes, it's an orphan disease because it's a poor people disease. So major pharmaceutical companies cannot be bothered by it because if you can't make a buck, it's not going to be as interesting as other than diseases, unfortunately. Heparin, antithrombin, that they're involved in anticoagulation, mucopolysaccharides such as hyaluronic acid. They form a basal membrane, they help form a basal membrane, and they do help wounds heal, be it burn wounds or be it bed sores. Do you know what bed sores are?
Bed source?
Mm-hmm. Bed
Don't know.
sore. If you lie in bed for longer periods of time because you're old, you're weak, or you're just bedridden, tiny sores are going to form because you don't move as much, and because of that, those are going to turn into wounds, and they're really difficult to treat. Hyaluronic acids in hyaluronate is a great way to treat that. Uh,
Mhm.
Usually, I'm a huge fan of these hyaluronic ointments, but also I keep little uh, um wound plasters for the little guy with hyaluronic acid. Um, what's it called? I'll be with you shortly. I'm just going to get myself a bottle of water and
Okay.
one, one, one,
I can't hear you right now if you're talking.
yeah. Tanzaplast, and it's
I'm sorry, you like
flexible.
the audio disappeared for like 15 seconds, so I don't know if you were talking.
Oh my God. Yes, I was so sorry. I just got myself a bottle of water and um, yeah, these little plasts, they work quite well. We have ones with hyaluronic acid and ultra flexible and whatnot, and these actually help wounds heal much faster and also fall off on their own. And these tend to form a kind of a fake skin. There's a polymer, a hydrogel, and hyaluronic acid that helps the wound heal much quicker. The little guy, usually when he gets mosquito bites, they swell up, they pop open, and I don't want him to scar. And then he gets an ointment with Curiosa, which is a hyaluronic acid based ointment, and it doesn't scar. It
Mhm.
doesn't scar, and it's very good to know because if you had any kind of wound like that, it's great, and also it's a good idea to keep one in the fridge.
Mhm.
Of these Curiosa ointments, because if you burn yourself in the kitchen, you grab that, you put it on the burn wound, it won't scar, it won't swell up, and it will heal much better. But
Okay.
immediately in its cool form, you put it on the fresh burn wound, you'd be surprised how quickly it heals. I did not know that for longer periods of time, and I almost had a mark that says Crofton in the palm of my hand,
Why?
because because I'm an idiot. I lifted a pan from the oven without any
Oh no.
gloves. I just forgot that it's in the oven, so it's hot. I put
That's
it
something
down
my
on the
mom
table.
keeps doing. My mom keeps burning herself. I feel like every single week, and she has like burn scars all over her hand because she keeps
Oh,
forgetting to put on gloves or just like
oh.
touching the oven with her hand or something.
Same here, same here. Buy her ointment with hyaluronic acid.
Okay.
It can be Curiosa from Richter, or there are these special ointments for teething kids. One of them is called Gangigel. You can get it in Hungary, or you can get it, I think, anywhere. It's for
Okay.
teething kids. It forms a special polymer, and it doesn't allow it to scar as much. If it's no longer bloody and there's fresh skin forming on it, then there are these special ointments that help the skin heal so it doesn't leave a mark. If you hear flushing stuff, that's me drinking.
Okay.
I used to hold the lecture, and my wife was listening in, and she's like, "Dude, it sounds like someone flushed down something." But yeah, yeah. Do take care of her burn wounds. Um, Hyaluronic acid, zinc hyaluronate ointment should work perfectly. Um, there's special burn wound ointments and plasters as well.
Hmm.
What I swear by is this one. I'm gonna send that one to you as well.
Hmm.
Dude, you taught me so much about things in the world, because yeah, this is one I always get.
Hmm.
Oh, you can see my toes. Oh my God. Yeah, this is great. I'm a huge fan of Curiosa. Uh, it's extracted from roosters,
Okay. From what?
but roosters,
Roosters, okay.
yeah, they have their crown and it's full of it, and it's the good stuff. Yeah, and it's protected by armed guards because they used to take away the rooster crowns, and workers there would make a stew from it. I mean, it's good, but far too expensive to be wasted for food. Myelin insulation is very important as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Obviously, physiological consequences depend on structure. Um, they can work like rafts, as barriers, and as co-receptors.
Mm-hmm.
Membrane proteins and lipids may interact with one another. Integral, peripheral, and lipid-anchored proteins do exist as well. Receptors, the trafficking proteins, some of them are drug targets. Ion channels and transporters are also linked to them. Structure, property, and function go hand in hand. A kilomicron usually transports lipids in blood. Why? Because lipids are non-water soluble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. VLDL pathway has a tag and it transports it as LDL, HDL transports things back to the liver. So higher HDL values mean a healthier body and far less likelihood of the buildup of plaques inside the veins and arteries, which is something we want. So high HDL cholesterol comparison to low LDL is healthier. But again, if someone has a metabolic syndrome, it's really difficult to combat. And then obviously, if it can uh, stick to the arterial wall, it will cause buildup. Can it be treated? Yes, there are special catheters that get rid of the gunk, and yes, there's going to be widespread inflammation, but lives can be saved as such. But diet and exercise, that's what does it. And then change in lifestyle. When we get older, we can't live like it's our 20s or it's our teen years anymore. We probably shouldn't have lived like that in our teens either. I'm talking about my old people generation, of course. So yeah, it's good to be more health conscious. Steroids are all made from cholesterol, obviously. Vitamin D is also essential for bone health, but not just. Also, it plays an important role in mood, and also it plays an important role in immunity. In immunity, you're coming down with something. First thing people will tell you, take vitamin C.
Mm-hmm.
No. I mean, vitamin C is nice, but there's absolutely zero evidence that shows that it does anything. But vitamin D and zinc, they do. They do. If you take a multivitamin and supplement with vitamin D, vitamin C, and try to stay away from infected people, wear a mask, maybe eat hot broth and just relax, you're going to recover much faster than otherwise. And wearing a mask, even if you're not sick, may be a good idea if you're in public, in areas where people are not that well versed in personal care. Uh, and I think I've been rather diplomatic about their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
In Budapest on tram 6, I've seen a guy sneeze on the door and then get off the tram and leave its remains on the door. Disgusting. I mean, I'm the kind of guy who has always antibacterial wet wipes and whatnot. It's not because I'm a germaphobe. I mean, obviously, I don't like germs that much, but it does help clean things up. Yeah, and it keeps things neat and tidy. Heck, it even gets rid of stains. Now, carbohydrate metabolism in disease can be quite an issue in problematic physiology. You're going to have hyperglycemia in insulin resistance or in type 2 diabetes. Now, these are gradual. Insulin resistance can be reversed via dieting, and there's evidence for that. And once you manage a new diet, a new lifestyle, you're going to lead a perfectly good lifestyle. You're going to lose body fat, and you can avoid type 2 diabetes. Obviously, there are some things that increase morbidity, other things that reduce the possibility, one has to be wary because there's no one-size-fits-all solution for everybody. People expect everyone to be equal physiologically, which is impossible, and it's quite appalling. I mean, guess what? I don't play in the NBA for obvious reasons. So a treatment that works for an NBA player doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
And we need to address that elephant in the room. Obviously, insulin suppresses glucose output for a while, but once someone becomes insulin resistant, that's an issue. How can you reduce? How can you reduce insulin resistance?
Reduce insulin resistance.
Hmm? Diet and
Mm,
exercise. Yeah, that's it. Now it's a complex question, obviously, but yeah, proper diet, high fiber, high protein, and proper harsh workouts, it's gonna reduce it. I've known a guy who was in his 50s at the time, and he already developed insulin resistance. They thought he was diabetic. He starved it out, not because he wanted to. He was a POW,
he was a what?
POW, prisoner of war.
Oh, okay.
And the poor guy, well, he didn't become diabetic, so lucky him. If he would have become diabetic in the 50s, he probably would have died. Because back in the day, only animal insulin was available for treatment. Nowadays, we have human insulin, and yeah, works wonderfully.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can develop allergies for other type of insulin. Cholesterol is essential, obviously, but yeah, these necrotic buildups may bring about a thrombus. They may close blood vessels. So something we try to avoid. The formation of foam cells and oxidation warheads. And this is quite common in Hungarians and from the eastern part of Hungary, but also in people from the north of Iran and from the Tehran region, especially in the jugular veins. How do you avoid that? Proper diet, proper exercise. You don't become lazy in older age.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how people build a dad board after a while. Not everyone's dad, but many people's dads, they build a dad board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Key takeaway, it is our responsibility to remain healthy for children. Cholesterol is essential, but mislocalized and retained lipoprotein cholesterol is pathogenic. So not all cholesterol is created equal. And a thrombus, if it starts moving, it can block arteries, it can block veins, it can cause death. Some people are clearly lucky and they'll be able to get rid of it through blood clot inhibitors and whatnot, and also there are certain surgical procedures that help people with this. So medicine came a long, long way. Again, correct biology begins with correct molecular structure, a tad bit of a summary, and of course, physiologically and clinically, glycogen, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Carbohydrates, after they're digested, they're going to be absorbed directly together with sodium. By the way, sodium glucose and caffeine get absorbed together, so a sugar-free energy drink doesn't have the same effect. However, high levels of glucose are going to spike your glucose levels, then you're just going to be lethargic and sad. So best option, yeah, get some kind of high fiber glucose source because it's going to release glucose slowly. Then sip a few droplets of energy drink and then expect heavy metal music to start in your brain, and then you can get going. I would usually have a pretzel and a coffee in the morning when I was working in a hospital, and it would last me through the day because we haven't had any time to just sit down and have proper lunch, and I would eat in the evening. Oddly enough, I didn't gain weight. It was difficult, but it was lovely. There was a red phone that commanded every thing I would do. Felt kind of like KGB times, It was awesome because it helped me manage my time and exert proper self-control. And of course, slow digestion helps you not spike your blood glucose levels. That's the great thing. And whole body control, well, a lot of things contribute to it. For example, higher levels of red blood cells are going to take off excess glucose. This is why people living in higher areas oftentimes don't develop diabetes or seldom develop diabetes because their body consumes the excess sugar. Oh, by the way, this Hansaplast usually cannot be bought in pharmacies. You can get it in DM, and I think in any DM throughout
Okay.
the region. Just saying it's a good idea to have because after the bleeding's gone and the wound is taken care of, you just glue this on it, and in a couple of days it should heal up much better. That's why I go with this kind of Hansaplast that I've sent to you. If someone is diabetic, then their wounds don't heal as easily. Also, men with low levels of testosterone have difficulties with wound healing as well, that being a consequence likewise. Lipid droplets and adipose storage, adipose tissue forms due to adipocytes. Basically, it's huge droplets of fat. These can be mobilized, and for them to get mobilized, obviously, you get the appropriate signals. They're being transported into muscles, into the mitochondria, and get burned via beta oxidation. This is why a high protein diet oftentimes helps people lose fat. But following a strictly ketogenic diet can cause mild acidosis and also an unpleasant smell. Uh, yeah, this kind of ketosis smell. Membrane asymmetry is highly influenced by lipid trafficking. There are quite a few lipid soluble vitamins we touched upon. Vitamin K is also supplemented to small children, usually infants. Bile salts play a very important role in the digestion of fats by being emulsifying agents. Be careful, bile salts do not contribute to lipid digestion at all. What they do is they emulsify. Digestion occurs enzymatically. They do not digest, they just emulsify. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I used to confuse the hell out of this. That's why I'm telling you.
Okay.
Not a question of intellect, and of course it does get recycled. 95% gets reabsorbed because it's expensive, and if it's expensive, you're going to recycle it. And portal circulation returns it to the liver in as greater quantities as possible. Obviously, these some of them get converted to something else that gives the color of what we all produce. And I mean number two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had small children ask me that question when I was a beginner teacher, and I told them, and then um, my supervisor was super angry. She was like, "Why are you telling them this?" Well, because I know they're interested, and you know what? If something funny is linked to the topic we're talking about, it helps them. It helps them more. Obviously, if it's unrelated, they're not going to take you seriously. And if it's just for the sake of messing around, then obviously it's not going to work. You need proper balance with humor. They didn't give me a high grade, they just gave me 80%, and they told me not to become a teacher. Then, when I started teaching in high school in Hungary, I started winning awards one after the other, and I sent it to them. And also, 3 years after they told me not to become a teacher, I became their teacher because I was a first year PhD student and they were doing a master's degree in teaching biology, chemistry, and physics. And I called them cheating. It was sad. It was sad. It was very, very bad. I felt really, really disappointed. I felt broken because I've seen my mentors whom I looked up to who judged me and rightly so, uh, but not in a constructive way, they were just in a position of power, drunk with power. Their criticism didn't come from a place of appreciation and growth. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate criticism. Don't get me wrong, I love it. Why? Because it helps me regulate myself, just like in the body. Yes, if there's a receptor, then there's going to be regulation, even at a genetic level. However, if it's a wrong set point, then it's damaging. Yes, it's like poison.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we need a proper salt water balance as well. Glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, androgens, estrogens, and progesterones, they all have their own biological role. Obviously, the structures are simplified and symbolic, not accurate to the point, but it's just there to derive a message. Obviously, glycation and advanced glycation and products are important. Protein amino groups are going to form a shift base, which is going to form another product which is going to add to glycation. And persistent glucose exposure can modify proteins and may also damage tissues. And age modifications, matrix properties change. I'm not saying that you should reduce glucose to zero, but eating cake for breakfast is probably not a good idea, but I don't have to tell you that because you know better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a bit of a molecular reasoning map, and the rest is basically just slides for you to practice and understand more. Few
Mm-hmm.
interesting stories about glycogen and diseases, lactose intolerance, the carbohydrate codes in um, blood groups. This is going to be interesting in genetics as well. The extracellular matrix and big aggregate with aggregan. We're giving that little hyaluronic acid in ointment form. You don't have to make it human body. So little skin cells start sitting your little skin asses on this and start growing. And they'd be like, okay. And it's dramatic. It's dramatic one day, from one day to the other. It's rather dramatic. Or oftentimes, what I've noticed, a lot of people have these tiny wounds where they wear watches, especially in the summer, and those wounds are quite persistent. Why? Because when you wear jewelry, oftentimes dust and gunk and dirt may deposit underneath. This is why I take it off in a laboratory, be it a ring or be it a watch, and oftentimes I do let wet wipes dry on the surface of my watch in order to absorb anything that went on the surface, because diffusion is indeed quite overpowered in that regard. And these tiny wounds can be dealt with hyaluronic acid ointment. And if you want to keep wearing the watch, then it's best to get a topical ointment. Basically, a good quality Vaseline, basically petroleum jelly works well, but it should be dermatologically tested so it doesn't clog up pores, because if it clogs up pores, you're doing worse. But in a few days, it should go away. I have had friends here who work as lawyers and they complained about this. And yeah, my sister's a dermatologist and we've talked about it and she solved it. Yeah, chondroitin sulfate is very important in joints, heparin sulfate in
Mm-hmm.
blood clotting, dermatan sulfate in skin, keratin, nails, and hair. Yes. Keratin, oddly enough, cannot be digested easily, and it's quite constant, it's quite persistent. They found it in fossilized form as well. Sphingolipids are very important, and obviously their storage can do Tay-Sachs, Gaucher, Niemann-Pick. These are genetic diseases in communities where tribal behavior and inbreeding is common. The Nazis would say, "Oh, it's a Jewish thing." It's not, not strictly. Armenians had it, Muslims, God knows, Pakistanis, Afghans, oftentimes closer people would marry in order to maintain tribal relationships, but also in Saarland in Germany, and also in certain Dutch families, it was rather common, but also amongst Ashkenazi Jews. That's why certain genetic diseases are more common, and also evolutionary push. Tuberculosis was way too common, and if they lived in cramped cities as merchants, because that's the only thing they could be, then obviously it was advantageous for people having this trait to basically survive more. And since it was a small community, small gene pool, it led to issues. I mean, my ancestors broke from these practices on all sides, and that's why I have such a diverse heritage. We're Hungarian, don't get me wrong. That's primarily the thing, but it was advantageous, believe me. Rest of the family didn't like it, but it is what it is. When people fall in love, they're gonna have healthier offspring, and guess what? It's true. And funny thing, Christianity brought this about, and it's a good thing. Why? Because tribal things became far less common, and they mandated way until the 13th and 14th century, so you wouldn't even marry your fourth cousin, even your sixth or seventh cousin either.
Mm.
It's all that's a bit extreme, but hear me out. What it led to is people formed alliances with strangers. They had to trust strangers,
Hmm.
and it brought about prosperity because if strangers are able to agree, if strangers are able to work together, guess what? They can do business.
Yes.
That's good. That's good.
Hmm.
And many such communities that still practice these tribal things and are set in their ways, they're not going to be successful. And nowadays it's incompatible with other cultures. Let's face it. And it's not a race issue, it's not a religion issue, it's a scientific thing. And you can't really debate with science and tell science what's politically correct because you've seen the Habsburg family, what they looked like,
Hmm.
because they bred themselves out of existence. And this is true for many other communities that follow the same practices. I mean, in religious texts, it's considered a sin. Um, it's just stupid, but it's really difficult to explain genetics to people who are unable to read and write, obviously. And yeah, lipid signaling, again, very important in inflammation, pain, fever, platelet aggregation, bronchial constriction, and vascular
I'm sorry,
trauma.
for like the last 10 seconds, I couldn't hear anything.
Oh my, just a minute, let me tinker with this. Membrane lipids may be signals as well.
Hmm.
Arachidonic acid plays a very important role in inflammation. You have to get it from food. You are unable to make it on your own. You probably have heard of omega fatty acids, yes?
Hmm.
Those are the essential fatty acids that play a very important role in inflammation, pain, sensitization of nociceptors. You have nociceptors everywhere. They're free nerve endings, but they also play a role in platelet aggregation and fever. Fever set point can be changed. This is why a lot of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, NSAIDs,
Hmm.
act on the cyclization of arachidonic acid and they don't allow it. So these leukotrienes and prostaglandins are unable to form. Hence, inflammation will be reduced, but immune function will also be reduced. So, should you take an anti-inflammatory drug? It depends what your circumstances allow you. If you can afford it in time, I'm not saying financially because let's face it, you can buy things or not buy things, doesn't matter. But in time, if you can afford it, it's best to rest it out if it's a disease. This is coming from a man who had like 5 sick days taken since his whole career. But at the Faculty of Health Sciences, they tell me to go home, stay home, maybe do an online class because they don't expect me to be
Mhm.
there. In public education, it varies. Now, membrane curvature vesicles also form by being uh, inside the clathrin skeleton, which is made up of protein, and these kind of vesicles form with the clathrin coat, and that clathrin can be used for internal or external transport.
Mhm.
Dietary fats are very important. As I said, they are essential dietary fatty acids. They are essential fat-soluble vitamins. We use enough oils and enough sunflower oil to have more than enough vitamin E. If you eat leafy greens, you get enough vitamin K as well. Vitamin D may also come from milk. As you see, milk cartons are non-transparent, so UV light doesn't do away with the vitamin D content. But also, if you supplement yourself with vitamin D, that's a good thing as well. If you use artificial tanning, it doesn't produce vitamin D. It just makes you look orange. And vitamin A should be taken sparingly, but you can take on a lot of vitamin A from liver and from carrots and other red or orange vegetables. Likewise. Here's a bit of a metabolic integration part. What happens when you're fasting? What happens when you're fat? What happens to insulin and glucagon? And basically a summary and a few other summary slides. If you would permit me, I'm going to move on to the other set of slides and we're going to revise those as well because I think they cross over rather well. They do have proteins, enzymes, and nucleic acids as well, but this is just to recap. Uh, and it is indeed, I do agree, rather demanding. Are you able to follow along? Are you able to go through the whole thing?
Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. I mean, it's a lot of information, so it's kind of hard to process and remember and like
If
connect the dots, but I
No,
understand.
no, no. If you create your own little notes and if you're able to send them to me, I would very much appreciate it. If it's possible to export in PDF or any other form, that works for me. Solomon's Biology is chapter 3 and 7 for proteins, enzymes, and nucleic acids. It also includes enzymes. With Campbell and Ludish, I would work with Campbell as well. It's not in the recommended Semmelweis things, or is it? I don't think it is, but it may be. But it's the Holy Bible of biology. I mean,
Yeah.
whenever I say Campbell, they're like, oh. It's like when you talk about someone's well-known acquaintance whom taught them the basics.
Mhm.
Even with my biologist colleagues, it's a thing. Obviously, with amino acids, you have an amino group, a carboxylic acid group. They form polypeptides, proteins, which can become enzymes. Nucleotides can form ATP, can form DNA, RNA, and they have their own structure and biological consequences. The chemistry of the building blocks is relatively simple. As you can see, you find everything about them. You can build them around alanine, if you will. Everything else has just a difference in its R group in that functional group, and from that functional group, you're able to construct the whole thing. We're going to learn all 20 amino acids at the end of the whole thing. You don't have to know them by heart yet. There are some side chains that are very important. They may have positive or negative charges. Lysine is very important. And oftentimes they have pK, several pK values, because
Mhm.
certain pH levels they're going to have a different state of ionization because of their complex structures, also as polypeptide chains. There's quite a bit of acid-base chemistry. They do act like buffers, as we said. They have an isoelectric point. and each one of them has a different one. Proteins are least soluble near their isoelectric point, so they can be precipitated. Salt bridges may form, there's pH sensitivity, but they also contribute to general pH balance. Peptide bonds are basically amide type bonds. They're a type of condensation type reaction. They're quite rigid. Rotation is not allowed. Rotation is going to be hindered around the peptide bond. Polypeptide chains form. They form a primary structure, which, if I would have to hold an analogy, kind of sort of reminds of a pearl necklace, but because of the chemical characteristics of these pearls, they're going to have varying secondary structures, be it an alpha helix or a beta pleat, depending on how hydrogen bonding forms between them. Hydrogen bonding is a powerful tool. It's a powerful influence in the case of amino acids and biomolecules. Tertiary structure is going to create a 3D form, and quaternary structure is going to be an association of multiple polypeptide subunits in a functional multi-subunit complex. So quaternary structure has a biological role and a physiological consequence as such. It makes sense, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a walk in the park for you. This self assembly works through various mechanisms: hydrogen bonding, ionic interactions, disulfide bonds, and I've talked about curly hair when I've talked about that, hydrophobic interactions within the core, and van der Waals contacts. In some cases is the weakest, being the most powerful. Folding, denaturation, misfolding, aggregation may also occur. Sequences acquire a functional 3D form. Denaturation may occur. Do you like to cook eggs?
No. No,
Allergies or
because no, no, I don't really like eggs because I can't really eat normal eggs because of histamine intolerance, and I don't really
oh
breaking the small ones usually, you know.
oh yeah. Quail eggs are a tad bit more
Yeah.
difficult. My wife hates them since she had COVID, so I have to prepare them in a special way. Yeah, I that's why I was asking because many people love it as she says it tastes like sulfur, it tastes like hell. So you have to add a little bit of Chinese cooking wine or tomatoes to it. But histamine, histamine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
Derived from histidine decarboxylation ban. And did you know a lot of Balkan people after a powerful breakfast, they're gonna have a kind of a sniff, yeah, as if they would have catched a cold, would have
Why?
caught a cold. Because of histamine. Histamine rises because of the combination of the foods they have eaten for breakfast.
Okay.
Yeah, they eat various kinds of foods and then they go with some kind of hard liquor. In Serbian and Bosnian regions, it's rakia, and yeah, oftentimes a lot of meat, onions. Heck, those people eat onions raw. It's not a crime. I think it's perfectly healthy, but it's not going to allow you to walk into an office building or a school because you're gonna have your own natural perfume, if you know what I mean. But it does raise their histamine levels as well. And you know how they treat it?
Oh,
Uh,
wait, what? Right,
they
what now?
don't. Do you know how they treat their excessive histamine surge, these Balkan men?
I don't know how Balkan men treat it, but I know that there's pills for it. What I
Uh,
take.
what do you take?
It's called Dowson. It's like diamino some kind of I forgot the name of the enzyme right now. But the pill is called Dowson, and I take it before eating, and
Mhm.
then it basically not replaces, but it gives my body the DAO enzyme, which I'm missing, so I can eat food.
Oh, oh my God. Wow. I'm learning new things every day. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
diamine oxidase enzyme. Yeah, I've heard that name.
Diamine. Oh, yeah, got it. They don't treat it, by the way. They never have Crohn's disease or irritable bowel syndrome. They just have diarrhea for 12 years. It goes away on its own, obviously. It doesn't, by the way. I'm making a humor out of this just to know that a lot of people have chronic diseases. They just don't care to get properly treated. Um, well, they used to. I'm not sure if the newer generation's like that, but I have seen cases like this. I've known alcoholics who were allergic to alcohol. I would
What?
open, yes, you cannot make this thing up, seriously. Um,
Okay.
I had a colleague, he's a biochemist. He had severe mental health issues. Once he tried to commit suicide by consuming copious amounts of barbiturates, but he just collapsed. We pumped his stomach. He was taken to psychiatry for a year. Then he returned and kept working. But whenever I would open a bottle of alcohol to disinfect a patient, he would start sneezing. He was so allergic to it. And in the weekends, he would drink copious amounts of alcohol and stink of alcohol on Monday. And I don't know how he did it because he was so severely allergic to alcohol itself. Now,
Interesting.
no, it's beyond science.
Uh-huh.
And why am I telling you this? Because you're going to meet these sorts of people. I mean, imagine the average IQ is, let's say, 90. That's
Yeah.
the average. Well, half of the population may be below that.
Mm.
And with an IQ of 90, they can only follow a linear story. Yeah? You can follow stories that branch off, and they may have three-dimensional branches, and you're still able to follow along because you're smart. These
Hmm.
people, this is where the story ends for them. Beyond that, that's unimaginable. It doesn't make sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, and you're shocked by the fact that this is the max capacity. And they're not bad people. They can operate machinery. They can do their job well. They're good people. They're loving people.
Hmm.
But you have to break it down for them in these linear modules.
Hmm.
So yes, every high school has around, let's say, 500 people. 2 out of 500 are going to apply for medicine. Not
Okay.
everyone gets in. So that's why it's so competitive, and that's why it usually aggregates the smartest people because if you're not smart enough to understand this,
Yeah.
you have nowhere to go. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you don't have to know these in detail, but you have to know that they exist. There's always a ligand binding pocket in an enzyme, and it has to have the appropriate three-dimensional structure, which is an induced fit like a handshake.
Mm.
Antibody antigen complementarity helps you recognize your own and recognize anything foreign.
Mhm.
Enzyme substrate specificity. Some enzymes are specific, some are like, oh, this looks okay, I'm gonna eat it. Protein and DNA binding contributes to the to the compacting of nucleic acids, and proteins may interact with other proteins, and of course, membrane proteins with hydrophobic surfaces. And fibrous proteins like collagen, creatine, and keratin, and um, structural strength, they all come together. Yes. Collagen is the most abundant protein in mammals. It's quite common in tougher cuts of meat if you're thinking about animals. And usually when you make a good quality, let's say beef soup, the spoon is able to stand in it when it cools down because it turns into a jelly, collagen. plays a very important role in that. It's found in tendons, in ligaments, in bone. Bone broth is usually like that. Bone broth became a superfood in Western countries just recently. People wearing beards and man buns discovered that bone broth is good. Cartilage and blood vessels also contain it, and it helps your skin resist stretching, and it provides tensile strength for tendons and other things. There's a triple helical structure, and you need vitamin C for it to properly form. A lack of it, scurvy.
Mhm.
And I'm saying it pirate-like because it was
Yeah.
obviously a disease
Mhm.
quite common amongst sailors and pirates as well. And keratin is a structural protein of epithelia.
Yeah.
It's a coiled structure as well, and it provides abrasion resistance and structural integrity. Now, obviously, collagen provides strength to connective tissues as well, and keratin provides protection to epithelial surfaces.
Mhm.
Some animals have really thick skin, for example, myself. Uh, so, yeah, they don't get hurt as easily. But I'm also talking about water buffalo, bears, or whatever. They have really, really thick skin for that reason.
Mhm.
I was asking about cooking eggs because protein, the simplest form of protein denaturation is that, and yeah, obviously, if you can eat quail eggs, well, you can just easily steam them or cook them in boiling water and make it a great thing. But yeah, obviously, I mean, you have your recipes down,
Mhm.
probably, and yeah, if someone has difficulties with certain foods, they know what's best for them. We had to figure out a menu for my wife as well after COVID. It's improving, but I have quite a sympathy for such things. I used to buy separate cookware for a student at our dorm because she had several allergies, and whenever we would have a get together, I would cook separately for her, and
Oh.
she was super happy. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, it was a challenge, but we rose up to the challenge, and she felt well.
Mhm.
I don't remember what intolerances she had, but we managed to ace it by working together with the medical staff, and I wanted to feel her included because it kind of sucks when you're on one menu, sitting far away from others, and whatnot. No, you should be in the group. And I think she couldn't eat bread because of gluten. So there are these cornbread recipes from the deep south, from the US. God bless their souls. They're really good. They're like muffins, and they're quite edible.
Mhm.
Rather addictive, if you ask me. Now, obviously, molecular chaperones, they fold proteins appropriately. They can be chaperone cages as well,
Mhm.
isolated chamber, allows protein to fold without aggregation, so they don't stick together. Not all chaperones are the same. Obviously, do you have to know them by name? No, you just have to know they exist. I'm going into greater detail or above uni level as well to show you
Mhm.
examples in which you're able to take. If proteostasis fails, toxicity, loss of function, aggregation, stress, and
Mhm.
all the dysfunction, especially in the brain, Alzheimer's, Huntington, quite a lot of cancers. They may be caused by protein issues. Nowadays, people find amazing things about cancer, and usually local journalists go like, people at this university have cured cancer. They have found another metabolic pathway that plays an important role in certain kinds of cancer. That's what the researchers said.
Mhm.
What did the people in the media understand?
That they found a
Okay,
cure for cancer.
yes, they think that cancer is a magical one thing and it
Mhm.
can be cured with a silver bullet. I wish it were that easy. It's a complex problem, and there are, again, in medicine, there are risk factors and there are protective factors. And if you're able to push the protective factors in your favor, then you're far less likely to become sick. If you push it in the other direction, it's much more likely that you're going to feel sick.
Hmm.
And oftentimes we don't take into account the psychological factors. People who are lonely and feel isolated, they feel like they're being marked for death. Because a lot of people are social creatures. We have been. We had our little tribe, our little group, and if we feel like we're lacking that, oftentimes many of us may feel useless and would feel quite fragile and mortal and dead. If we get embarrassed in front of others, some people are like, I feel like I died. Yeah, embarrassment had that role, but nowadays it's really not that important. I mean, embarrassment is temporary. Do you remember other people being embarrassed?
Yes.
Is it someone close to you?
Yeah.
That's why. If someone's not your friend or your family member, you're not going to remember it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Same thing applies to you. Yeah, only people who are really close to you are going to remember it and they're going to forgive it. And people
Hmm.
who are not that close to you, they won't care. Why? Because they're the main characters of their own lives and they cannot afford to care. It's not like they don't care because they're bad people. They cannot afford to care because our brain capacity is limited in that regard. And I had a PhD supervisor. The poor man thought that everyone was against him and everyone judged him. And I told him, look, most people don't care you exist. Not because they're bad, because they don't have the mental capacity. And you care about so many people's existence and them hating you. Even if it were true, why do you care? It doesn't influence your life. And it's difficult. It's difficult because some genius people can be awful people as human beings. You'll learn about that. Now, post-translation, they are also modified via acylation or methylation. And acylation and methylation, ubiquitination. Ubiquitination marks it for slicing. Lipidation, disulfide bonding may also occur in between cysteines. Obviously, it's just a representation. Um, and of course, these changes are going to uh, create local modifications, special interactions, contribute to stability, or hinder it because we don't need it for long, and of course, activate and inhibit things.
Hmm.
Signaling, trafficking, degradation, disease or metabolism is going to be highly influenced by these. Phosphorylation, of course, and glycosidation, they play an important role. And acylation and methylation also plays an important role in histones, if you remember.
Hmm.
They're powerful catalysts. Oftentimes they lower activation energy,
Yes.
yeah, finding a new metabolic pathway. A
Hmm.
lot of them may have metal cation, zinc, for example, in alcohol dehydrogenase, or zinc in a lot of transcription enzymes, or in the zinc fingers, in the copying of DNA.
Hmm.
And of course, a lot of them may play an important role. Histidine, serine, may play a very important role in inflammation. Acid base in tyrosine or lysine in muscle mass, cysteine in hair and in mucus buildup. You probably have heard of ACC, and acetylcysteine is used to get rid of the
ACC?
ACC.
I have not heard of it.
ACC.
Okay.
ACC is a product and contains N-acetylcysteine. Basically, supplements your body with a lot of acetylated cysteine, and mucus cannot build up because most of the mucus in your nose is uses cysteine to become that unpleasant gooey thing. This makes it the totally water-like, and you swallow it, but it's a good decongestion. However, that leaves the inside of your membranes unprotected, and bacteria and viruses can cross over. So it's best to supplement it with hyaluronic acid-based nasal sprays that form a film.
Mhm.
In 2 or 3 days, your membranes are going to recover, and hopefully the infection won't spread. It won't
Mhm.
affect other parts of your immune system. That's why it's a good idea to wear a mask, not just not to spread the disease, but to not expose yourself to pathogens that otherwise would not be able to hurt you,
Mhm.
because it can cause a mild viral disease into a very bad bacterial disease.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, the upper respiratory diseases are kind of sort of specialty of mine because I had them so often as a teacher. But I always have a mask nearby, and I kind of know what to do so as I don't spread something. I usually keep distance from students, and I usually use a touch screen to draw on because it helps them take better notes.
Mhm.
Metal ions oftentimes play a very important role, be it magnesium, iron in some form. Iron is not just in hemoglobin, but a variety of enzymes. Zinc is also essential. Copper is also essential. There are quite a few things that are essential. A lot of things we've covered previously.
I'm
Obviously,
sorry. I have to take my dog to the like a salon in an hour, so could
okay, I think we're gonna call it a day soon. It's just a tad bit about how enzymes work, but I think we did that in IB likewise. How enzymes work again, not a biggie. We've talked about different kinds of RNAs as well, late in later things, how they occupy various places in the body,
yeah.
uh, how you can separate proteins virtually, how we studied them,
Mhm.
the differences of the two sugars, um, how secondary messengers play an important role, and we've talked about them, how they play an important role, and why is cyclization such an important thing. Coenzymes, how they work. We've talked about thioesters in acetyl CoA, how their chemistry stacks up, how the double helix forms, how genetic code works. I think we touched on this again and again. Damage, repair, genome stability. This is something we keep turning back to with of course reactive oxygen species in UV having a very important role, not to mention alkylation and acylation, how topology works, primary, secondary, tertiary structures, what kind of function diversity they've got, what about hydrogen bonding, inhibition, denaturation, hybridization, what molecular tools we had, again, and of course, it's the universal language of bio and its central dogma. And basically, it adds the function, and of course, they all interact with one another and integrate one another. Signal sequences work as such, and from amino acids, you can pretty much move on to a phenotype from a genotype, and basically how they contribute to your physiology. Well, that's about it. That's what I wanted to cover for today. I think it's a lot of material, and I admit it is a lot.